welcome everyone to this week's BFG review. Now before I get started, I want to thank anyone who's watched my previous videos and remind everyone to please like and share this video because it really does help grow the channel. Now, with that out of the way, on to this week's film, which is Dr. Sleep. Based on the novel by Stephen King, directed by Mike Flanagan, and starring Ewan McGregor, Rebecca Ferguson, Kylie Curran, Emily Alyn Lind, Cliff Curtis, and Zahn McLaren. This film takes place years following the events of The Shining and follows a now adult Danny Torrance as he meets a young girl with similar abilities and tries to protect her from an evil cult who prey on children with powers to remain immortal. So, I have to preface this by saying I'm not that big of a fan of the original Shining film. While I appreciate the masterful direction from Kubrick and the feeling of dread and suspense he creates throughout the film, there just was something about it that never really clicked for me. In all honesty, I watched it for the first time in preparation for Dr. Sleep. I say this because even though I do think you need to have seen The Shining to fully understand this film, you don't necessarily have to have loved that film to enjoy this one. Dr. Sleep luckily doesn't just retell the same story with updated characters, but it continues the story from the first film while introducing new characters, and it furthers its world building. This film is a thrilling, suspenseful ride that I think will please both Shining fanatics and general audiences. The story is well crafted, staying simple enough to allow for more character moments, but with enough twists and turns as to not become predictable. The two leads, Danny and Abra, work wonderfully off each other, and are each given their own character arc. And Rose the Hat is a beautifully threatening villain. I do wish, however, that there was more on the cult's history. We're shown that they've been around for at least 40 or so years, but we know little else about them. It's hinted that they've possibly been around for thousands of years, but that's not really explored, nor is it confirmed. There are a couple of other concepts like that the film introduces, but then does very little with. Mainly, I'm curious at how accepting / knowledgeable the people in this world are of people with powers. It's kind of hard to tell whether it's kind of an accepted fact that these people are out there, or if it's still more myth and legend. To me, one of the film's biggest issues, however, is its pacing, especially in the first half. While very little actually happens in the first act, the film is constantly jumping between Danny, Rose, and Abra. There's also an 8-year time gap near the end of the first act, and it just seems unnecessary and somewhat distracting. I think it would have been better if the film focused more on Danny and his struggles, rather than constantly checking in with the other leads. The climax also feels a bit rushed. I don't want to spoil anything, but something is introduced during the climax and then is almost completely and immediately resolved in the next scene. But what ends up pulling you through the entire movie are the performances. The entire cast brings their A game, no matter how small the role. And Ewan McGregor is a great Danny Torrance. He sells the fact that he had a messed up childhood, and you can feel his dread when he has to finally confront it. Kylie Curran is also amazing as Abra. She plays this no-nonsense kid who, while she wants to be seen as normal, still enjoys using her powers. The film also both looks and sounds amazing. The original Shining score is used sparingly and perfectly throughout the film to help create great suspense and dread when needed. The visuals are also clearly taking inspiration from Kubrick. There's some wonderful cinematography and some amazingly trippy visuals in this film that I honestly wasn't expecting. The film can also be pretty gruesome at times, with kids being tortured and killed and bodies rapidly decaying. But again, it all just adds to the feeling of dread I feel the film was trying to create. The last thing I'll say about the film is that it has some decent life lessons about accepting not only who you are, but what made you who you are. So, in the end, despite some pacing issues, Dr. Sleep is an enjoyable sequel with a good story, great characters, and thrilling suspense throughout. And in my opinion, earns a B letter grade. So, those are my thoughts on the film. Let me know your thoughts on the film, as well as your thoughts on the drawing in the comment section down below. And don't forget to like, share, and subscribe, and hit that bell notification icon to be notified anytime I put up a new video. Thanks everyone, and have a great day.